Now back to this afternoon to watch Glass in the Making.
Come on! Gone. That's what happens! That's... Damn bastard won't come off. No, it wasn't going to come, was it? There we have it. Oh, dear me. I knew I should have gone to the seaside. It's a nice pattern too, that. Still, I can do it again. I attended an art school in which glass was a special subject, the old art school in Stourbridge. And as part of the art curriculum, you were given some instruction in blowing and also in glass decorating. So I came into glass early, when I was about 13 or 14, and have been with it almost ever since. Basically, training gradually to be a designer, but in the last 8 years I've been involved with the studio glass movement, which started in America. On the basic techniques that I'd once learned, I started blowing for myself, which has proved to be much more satisfying than actually designing. I basically work on my own. Normally in the glass house of a firm, there would be 3 people on a team making a goblet. They'd probably make it, at least within 3 minutes. If I make a goblet on my own, it takes me from 20 minutes to half an hour. I blow glass in actually 2 places. I am a lecturer in a BA degree course in glass and ceramics in Stourbridge, and I do the bulk of my blowing and creative work in Bewdley, in the museum complex. Studio glassmaking is very, very young. It started around about 1966 in America. A group of potters and sculptors wanted to use glass as a medium. By about 1968, I was teaching in an art college in Stourbridge. We had a visit from one of these Americans, and from then on we were completely sort of knocked out by it, by the freshness, by the vigorousness of it. At one time there was a sort of hard definition where you have a designer and you have a glassmaker, a skilled glassmaker of about anything up to 30 years standing. And you go along to him with your design and he creates it for you. But here the thing was split wide open within the limits of your skill. You could go into the glass house and you could create the piece straight the way through, you know. And this was marvellous. It was right wide open. The biggest drawback is if you don't clearly know what you want to do, because it's such an immediate thing when you're blowing. You've really got to be a slight jump ahead of the actual material, because it's so molten and it's, you know, going all over the place, and you've really got to be on it. Of course, the problem's been that my skills have been advancing only slightly ahead of the actual ideas. You're absolutely and completely involved in the process from the very beginnings of gathering right the way through to the finish. There's a complete, tight, total rhythm right the way through. I think to some degree possibly a potter's better off in that at least in certain times when he's throwing he can stop slightly, look around, perhaps decide to make a different move on a shape. But when you've got it on the end of the iron and it's molten and it's moving, you've really got to go at it and take it right through to its conclusion. dangers are pretty obvious, you know. It's bloody hot. I think one of the basic things is to learn to pick up irons and keep turning them, to be able to keep them turning, and do it totally unconsciously, because when you've got hot glass, you've got to keep it straight, so you must turn it. The fact that you have a lot of people watching you, it doesn't really bother you. It would bother me no more than being televised, because the actual method and the material command your total attention. It can be extremely frustrating. It's a hell of a material to work. It really is, you know. You get some very, very bad days. You get terrific highs and terrific lows. You know, sometimes you just would like to give it up and walk away. But it lures you back, I think, you know. Personally, I'm very nervous. I get as nervous as a cat. Until I get the first 2 pieces in, I'm very jumpy. When I started 2 days ago, I lost 6 out of 12. But I accept that. There's a set rhythm to it and a timing. And you've just got to get into it and get faster and faster and faster. Most of the wood is either pear wood or beech. So pear wood is beautiful. It's like silk on the glass. You know, it's super. damp. And those wine glasses, particularly when you're doing it on your own, it's the point when you take it off the main iron and then you put up the punty on the base of it and you offer it up again. It's a question of timing there. If you're a bit too slow, you'll get the thing crack right down the body, as I find. Your timing's got to be on there, you know, slow one way or another. You'll lose them, and that's at the time when most of the work's done. You know, it is, for me, the crucial time there. Once I've got it on the punty and I'm offering it up and it's still okay, I'm okay, I'm happy, I'm on the way then. A bit embarrassing at times, you know, that if you lose something, they are often more disappointed than you, they really are. And then when they start to show their appreciation by clapping, it really is the end, you know, it's so funny, you really feel very embarrassed. The main question people tend to ask is, where does the glass come from? They see the iron go in and come out, and they don't realise there's a basic ceramic box there with molten glass lying in it, which you dip and take out. Very like picking up golden syrup. It has the same texture. It's just as difficult. There was a technique that came to the fore in and around the 1900s called iridescing. What had actually happened, Tiffany and some of his people had seen early Roman glass, and most of this early glass, having been buried in the ground, had developed beautiful sort of rainbow sort of effects on its surface. This had achieved chemically through the ground and through the contents of the ground. And they worked at it from another angle with an up-to-date knowledge in the laboratory, and they came up with a technique of spraying on a liquid, a tin-based liquid, while the glass was still hot and while it was being decorated, to produce the same effect that had been achieved from hundreds of years, a piece of glass lying in the ground. And they call it, it's just termed iridescing, and I use it a considerable amount to show you the difference. This piece, in fact, has been iridesced. It's got a lovely sort of surface bloom on it, as opposed to this one, which is untreated altogether. It's, you know, they both have their own different qualities, but I started to use a lot of threading. I had seen it done many, many years ago by a glassmaker, and then it had gone out of my mind and out of sight for years and years and years. And I should say a year after I started, when I was getting a reasonable control of blowing, I started to teach myself to hook and thread properly, and then started to do variations of threading. Following a tried technique, I mean, threading goes all the way back to the Egyptians, but using it in my own particular way with my own shapes, really. I'm not tired of it yet. There's still endless possibilities, you know. The biggest problem, I think, blowing generally is making stemware, goblets and things. You want a relatively thin bowl with a thin rim that people want to drink out of, but again, you've got to try and keep the heat there. And there is a tendency towards a hell of a loss rate there. I virtually want to make bigger things. I want to make rather large cylinders. I'm starting to make much longer, larger goblets. I'm getting the skills now. I want to blow larger and to be able to handle the heavier weights, to go in terms of this particular shape. It would be nice to blow these at least double and treble size, really big thing. I think that's the one thing I feel about my glass at the moment. I am tied down a bit in size, but I'm working on it. I think some are for looking at, and some are for actually using, you know. Certain things are definitely non-functional, you know, like small bottles, really. They are more purely decorative objects, and the smaller squat ones like this, they are purely for looking at, as far as I'm concerned, really. Goblets, well, the more ornate ones like these, really, I don't think you'd use them. I do. I like to. There's a very great feeling of luxury drinking out of one of these, especially if you've made it yourself, you know. I think that people do find it fantastic to sort of see a thing right the way through from the raw, gathering the raw material out, and then see it blown and it forms and it develops and gradually takes shape up to the point that it goes in the kiln. It's never lost its sort of magic quality for me. Never. I could watch glassmakers anywhere. I don't think I've ever been bored with watching it. Oh, I think there's enough to keep me busy for the rest of my life. I've got so much that I want to do and say in the material, really. More than enough.